Let's talk about the meaning of the second house and of the fourth house, and then explore what happens when the Lord of the second and the Lord of the fourth house combine, or when the fourth and the second house get active together. So to start off, let's take a quick review of what the second house is. We've already talked about it in previous videos, but as you can see on the wheel, the second house is the area of the sky that's actually in the ground under the eastern horizon. So it signifies or symbolizes everything which supports the eastern horizon. Whatever the eastern horizon symbolizes, the second house symbolizes things that support it. So this means that it is pro-beginning and pro-visibility, because that's what the east is about. The east is about things coming into visibility when the sun rises and where the day begins and so forth. So because it is pro-beginning, it's all about the source of the birth, right? So it's about the family. It's also about your wealth, and the second house is also about health. So the second house is family and wealth and health, because it's about the ability to bring things into being. Overall, all of those things mean stability. The second house is a lot about stability, which is the foundation upon which things rest. Things can come into being because they have something to rest on. So the financial stability, the health stability, the family stability, all that is indicated by the second house. And also, since it's health, it has to do with nutrition, diet, and the mouth, and then even other things about the mouth like the voice. Now, because it's pro-visibility, it's about knowledge. Knowledge is the ability to make things known or visible or illuminated, not unseen. And the second house pertains to things which are visible or real or tangible or practical. Now that's the second house. The fourth house, as you can see on the wheel, is the area of the sky that's directly below your feet. So the fourth house is the pinnacle of the underground, and therefore it signifies everything relating to the inner invisible self. What that first of all means is the fourth house is all about our emotions. The emotions are based on your feelings towards things. In other words, you feel happy or sad, etc., peaceful or anxious, based on how you feel about something. If you like something and you get it, you feel happy. If you dislike something but you get it, you feel unhappy. So also the fourth house is about our devotions, how we feel towards things, how we love or dislike things. So it also shows our virtues, it also shows our values and our morality. What we consider to be good, what we consider to be bad, what we consider to be nice, what we consider to be not nice. Now, it's below ground, so it also has to do with your roots. It's like the second house in this way. It has to do with your foundation or your roots. So again, like the second house has to do with family, the fourth house has to do with ancestry, roots, especially mother. And also like the second house, it's about stability in general. Therefore, it's about the stabilizing place in your life, the central anchoring place in your life, your home. And the other thing about your home is the home is where you go to be private. You're unseen from the public when you're in your house. Similarly, the fourth house is underground. It's unseen. So it's going to signify things which are private and happen inside your private spaces. Once you get into this realm of privacy, then you start to talk about private property, which the home is the king of. So the fourth house also has to do with private property and your wealth. So now we understand what the second house signifies and what the fourth house signifies. Now we could talk about what to interpret when the two houses interact. How would houses interact? There are several ways. For example, the second lord could go into the fourth house, or the fourth lord could go into the second house, or the second and fourth lords could exchange houses, or the second and fourth lords could join up someplace. They could conjoin each other somewhere, or they could mutually aspect each other somewhere. These are various simple ways that the fourth and the second house could interact. But a more sophisticated and important way that the houses can interact is when they are prominent in a certain sequence. If your most prominent house is the second, and then your next most prominent house is the fourth, then they're interacting with each other in your life. And if you want to get an assessment of which houses are most prominent on a scale of good, prominently good, to prominently bad, and not so prominent in the middle, then you can get my report called The Houses of Life, which analyzes the houses in your chart based on the techniques described in this classic astrology text, Paul Deepika. Really good techniques, very sound scientific techniques, systematic techniques for assessing how houses are functioning. If you get that report, then you'll get this code that looks like what's on the screen right now, and it'll tell you the sequence of your houses. And when you have 2 and 4 next to each other, and also if you have them at the opposite ends of the code, like 2 on one side and 4 on the other side, or 4 on one side and 2 on the other side, then you have a chart where 2 and 4 are interacting, even if the lords aren't together. So now let's talk about how we will interpret this. The first thing, obviously, is that the second house has to do with stability, and the fourth house has to do with stability. So this is the harmonious resonance. They're talking about the same thing in the same way. So it's going to give good results. It's going to indicate a person who's basically quite stable. If they're stable, then they tend to be reliable, or maybe predictable, but in a good way usually. They're reliable. You can rely on them. They're stable. They're consistent. Because they're stable, reliable, and consistent, if you stand on them, if you lean on them, they don't cave in, they hold you up. So people with positive connections between the fourth and the second house, they are very well suited to support others and have families, etc. Not only that, but they can support their projects as well. They can hold weight. So they can hold responsibilities, whether it's supporting other people or supporting other projects and having a lot of responsibilities. They're responsible, reliable, stable people. The next thing about the second house and the fourth house is that the second house is about family, and the fourth house is about family. It's about ancestry. So again, both houses are talking about the same thing in the same way. It's going to be very good. So as we said, these people are good with family. They're also close with their family. And another thing about this is they're in touch with their roots. So what does it mean to be in touch with their roots? They tend to be nourished by their own traditions and culture. They feel good about where they come from. They feel good about their background. It helps them have a positive sense of who they are and what they're supposed to do. They're well connected to their culture. Third thing to mention with the second house and the fourth house is about wealth, and the second house is about wealth again. So as you can see, this is very good to have the second lord in the fourth house, or the fourth lord in the second house, etc., or to have these houses in sequence. You don't really actually want to have them on the opposite ends of the code, because when the houses are on the opposite ends of the code, one is on a positive side and one is on a negative side, so they're not going to work together. So it's very good to have these lords 4 and 2 interacting with each other. It's very good to have 4 and 2 in a sequence in your house code, but it's not so great to have 4 and 2 on the opposite ends of the house code. And in what way would it be not so great? You would get not so good versions of these things. So instead of stability, it would be like stubbornness or like instability, even depending on the circumstances of that particular chart. Instead of close with family, it would probably be like overly bound by the traditions or at odds with the traditions. And instead of wealth, it would be poverty. Same thing could potentially happen with the lords in the other houses if they're in very bad extraneous circumstances, debilitated and aspected by other debilitated planets, etc. But generally speaking, 2 and 4 go very well together when the lords mix or when the houses come in sequence 2-4 or 4-2. So to take a little bit more of a close look at wealth, the wealth dynamic means, well, the person with good connections between fourth and second house, they're wealthy. Simple as that. Not just in terms of having a lot of money, but also in terms of having happiness, having ability to feel good, enjoy life. Not in a wild and crazy way, but in like a peaceful, steady reliable, consistent way. And they tend to be, therefore, at ease. People who are kind of peaceful or at ease or happy, not very worried or anxious. So I hope this helps you understand the second house and the fourth house and how to interpret the combinations of their lords and their sequences in the house code. One more time, I'll just mention, if you want to get that house code for yourself, go to my website, victorcara.com/H, and you can order one there. Thank you very much.